Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and I got to play 3 hours of Star Wars Outlaws. This was done remotely via Parsec, meaning this was not a native test on my home PC, but rather some supercomputer in Canada was streaming this game to my PC, and there was a demoist in attendance who was just helping me through things if I ever got stuck in the game. I had about 4 hours to experience the game, but spoiler, I enjoyed it so much that I actually stopped myself short at 3 hours to make sure I preserved a little bit of the experience for myself. The demo does begin on the planet of Toshara, with most of my time spent in the city of Mirogana and its surrounding locale, and Kvesh is on the run for reasons I'm not fully aware of given my starting point in the demo, but it led to her working with the underground syndicates of the Star Wars universe to give her a way of fighting back, and ultimately Star Wars Bounty Hunter vibes, which is funny timing because the new re-release of Star Wars Bounty Hunter is out now, along with my review over on Retro Rebound, so you can go ahead and check that out if you want to. Anyway, I have a lot to say on this one because, for those who don't know, this is one of my most anticipated games of the year. I know Ubisoft makes a nice, clean, simple, sometimes template-focused open world, but I kind of wanted that for Star Wars so I could just live in this universe I love so much. So how's it delivering so far, for me at least? Let's get into that after a word from today's sponsor. Have you ever cracked open your fridge and been like, dang man, I want to make this kind of food that's in my head, but I don't really know how to get there? HelloFresh is a shortcut to that sort of success without sacrificing any of the quality and just having strictly good eats. If you sign up right now, you're gonna get free appetizers for life. Sounds pretty good? Well, let me make it better for you. They taught me how to make the single pan turkey tacos, still a staple in the Matty household, and I absolutely love this recipe. And better yet, there's 50 plus more recipes for you to pick from now. All of them mouth-watering goodness. I mean, again, look on screen. It's delicious. They're going to deliver quality ingredients right to your doorstep so you can skip the shopping, enjoy that summer breeze a little bit longer. No more blankly staring at the refrigerator, trying to figure out what you want to make. You're going to get freshly packed ingredients, all proportioned right, to your doorstep. Less hassle, more eating, and as a foodie, that's what I'm all about. So what are you waiting for? Support the channel by clicking my link in the description down below and subscribing to HelloFresh. Every purchase helps me create more awesome content, truly. So shout out to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. Now, at the top of all this, a few weeks ago, IGN did drop gameplay, and it was rough in certain areas. Now, while not perfect, I can confidently say that what I played was not nearly that rough. I also don't think there was enough time for Ubisoft to make adjustments to particular builds where it's possible what was shown off by IGN was older than what I played. I'm not 100% sure, to tell you the truth, but I just wanted to make sure we acknowledge that kind of rough gameplay that may have just been bad gameplay, because what I played didn't have those like weird clunky explosions that looked like, hey, this game is solid, but it needs some more time in the oven. What was consistent, however, were the cutscenes. A lot of them did not look good at all. I mean, there were moments where the facial and motion capture were much improved, but otherwise there were conversations that just looked far too dated, even for Ubisoft standards. With that in mind, there were some issues I had, but they were more like mechanically speaking, not technical. So let's get into what really stood out to me with this preview, because many of you may know I did preview Star Wars Outlaws previously, like laying eyes on the game, but this is my first time actually playing it. You already know I really wanted to get into the open world experience, but there was one mechanic that really caught me off guard and I'm very excited about, and that's the reputation system. So how it works is that you're going to help one syndicate, but that will anger another. And so there's this sort of give and take relationship between all of the syndicates. Now, spending time with one syndicate by completing jobs for them, making choices that benefit them, will unlock rewards like weapon skins, bundles of parts for your ship to upgrade that, disguises to wear that'll conceal you in particular areas of the galaxy. They'll also provide gameplay bonuses like gaining more adrenaline on hits with your blaster, and you'll also gain access to unique merchants and contracts, which I didn't have a chance to lay my eyes or hands on. However, this system is fueled by choices made. Now, do they fully impact the story, as in multiple endings? As of now, I'm unsure, but I noticed that despite screwing over a particular syndicate regularly, I actually didn't feel that was represented in any follow-up conversations in a way where they were jaded or angry or monitoring what I was doing and it was impacting them in a negative way. Maybe it needs more time to have an impact. Again, I did stop an hour short of where the demo actually ends, but I'll see with the full game how the choices impact things. But I will say off the rip that I love the whole reputation meter system just because it unlocks certain pieces of content. It encourages you to kind of look into all of these syndicates and decide which one aligns with you most, particularly in gameplay. Just seeing what buffs you get out of that system alone will help you decide on a path. and it kind of makes some of the big story moments hit a little harder, knowing that there is going to be some movement in that reputation system. I am curious to see how permanent it is long term, as in, can I really get deep on one end of the reputation meter where I'm really helping out like the Crimson Dawn, and so the Pike Syndicate is just so upset with me that there's no repairing that? Or is there enough content in the game to sort of upend it? Because one thing Ubisoft has been saying is they kind of went, if you will, lighter on content comparatively speaking to their past games. And when I was exploring the open world, I really felt that. But more importantly, what I felt here was traditional Star Wars. For those who are unaware, Outlaws is set between episodes 5 and 6, and I think visually it's well represented in that way. There's a very light film grain. The scene is particularly lightly desaturated. The dimly lit metallic environment, some of the neon signs casting a glow upon them. It's beautiful how much this game looks like that era of Star Wars in all the best ways. Like, it truly feels as if visually I'm looking through a time portal on how the world used to look in like the 80s and 90s, where Star Wars was still this kind of growing thing. And allow me to beat you to the punch, wisecracking commenter, because yes, the time portal, if you will, is not always in favor of Star Wars Outlaws. Like I mentioned earlier, there are moments that this game is time portaling you back to like that beginning era of Star Wars, and there's times it's time portaling you to like the PlayStation 3, where the game just doesn't look up to snuff. Facial animations can at times be very reminiscent of, to me, Mass Effect Andromeda. I also think that there are times that visual effects on screen just don't look right. They don't pass the eye test. There are also moments where I feel like textures are a little flat and less detailed in particular areas. Like, corners were cut at times with this project. There are moments where the broad view very much favors this game, but when you get up close and personal, sometimes it just doesn't, as I said earlier, pass that eye test. And more interestingly, on a mechanical front, is that certain areas were actually walled off. There's almost a Metroidvania element to this game. Like, I tried to go off the beaten path in Miragana, like one of the starter cities, and there were certain tools I didn't have yet that once I unlocked, I could go back there and get this collectible or this unlock or reach this mission. I'm very curious to see how much that branches, but I was very pleasantly surprised by how much depth in the exploration there was there. But this world also feels very lived in. I don't love every single Ubisoft open world game, but one thing that's always been consistent for me, even in some of my least favorite ones, is that their world spaces feel very believable. The way NPCs are barking at each other, the way everything feels so alive and the interaction is there, can be pretty good. But that's the last leg of it all, is sometimes it feels like I'm doing a bit of window shopping in their worlds where everyone's interacting except me. I'm just kind of walking through this very active museum, if you will, where this world, there was a lot of interactions, NPCs to talk to, but also like mini games to partake in. And that kind of leads me into one thing I found very interesting about this game was opening things up. There were multiple approaches on how I could reach the Pike Syndicate. I could loot credits around the local area, which was a little bit tough to find. I could actually bribe someone with the credits I found, or I could get those credits by gambling and then in turn bribe someone. And the way I got those credits was by doing a race betting mini game. And this is where I say the world feels alive. Like, I just kind of organically found this and started betting on this digital alien racing around and made a bunch of money that way, and then managed to get my way into the Pikes with the credits I had in hand. I could also talk to someone and get a VIP pass, again, with money in hand. And I'm curious to see how this evolves long term, because again, with the reputation meter, I could see some really cool options opening up here. So you get out into the open world. This was one thing I was super curious about, right? Like, how is this open world experience going to fare in what is Ubisoft usually doing one giant world, but now you can go to multiple planets and you can land on different parts of the planet? How is that going to feel? I'm going to say this, and I don't mean to be controversial to my Starfield fans, because I too love Starfield, but I think for a lot of people who were disappointed with what Starfield offered in the terms of like landing on planets and going to particular locations and having those have lots of meaningful content there, like, this game kind of feels like an answer to those wishes with just really good timing on its side. The fact that there's like no loading screens between landing on and leaving planets helps a lot in grounding you in this world. The content here isn't anything that you haven't seen before. You know, you're going to race people, you're going to take out Imperial outposts, there are treasure hunts you can do, contracts to complete, side missions to do, collectibles to hunt. And what I say is this, and it will sound like I'm in the game's defense, but honestly, I love Star Wars, if I haven't made that clear like a million times this video. And so for me, as someone who loves this universe, I love the excuse to be able to live in here and spend a lot of time here. And these are fun things for me to do. I immediately got roped into all of these. I wasn't really waypoint chasing. A lot of this was, I would say, the same world design that you would find in like Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, where they really didn't hold your hand too much in the terms of guiding you to your next objective. And I like that a lot because it just pulled me deeper into the world to just not look at my map, but look at what's around me, to search for these treasures, to search for key cards, to unlock bunkers full of really great loot, and so on. So I liked how this world was laid out. I liked that there were just fun little objectives dotted throughout, and I could see myself sinking a ton of time into this game because it reminds me a bit of how I felt with, here's a random one, Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor when it came out. I love Lord of the Rings. I love Middle-earth. And that game, while it had very simple kind of checklist open world objectives, I wouldn't really say what Ubisoft's doing here is super simple, but it's not anything you haven't seen before. But in Shadow of Mordor, I just loved being in that world. Loved doing the free flow combat, like just being in that world for as long as possible, getting the platinum trophy. Like I could see that happening here with Star Wars Outlaws. So I would define it for many as doing enough to hold your interest, but nothing that really blew my mind quite yet. It's just the attention to detail, the environments, the universe, and I'm hoping the story delivers with those choices because it's all fueled by the reputation meter. Now, there are some drawbacks in my opinion. Stealth gameplay was a focus, but if you were caught, it would send you back and to your next checkpoint. And I thought that was a little old school, especially because you don't carry around a ton of weapons. Like you'll pick them up, use them, and then let's say I make contact with like a ladder or I go through a doorway, like you're going to drop them and move on. So this naturally incentivizes stealth further since all you have is just your pistol. And I can't see everyone loving the stealth options here because mechanically it doesn't feel the best. And outside of a single stun shot from my blaster or some melee takedowns, my early options felt very limited for what clearly is a key part of the game. Now, I do like that your blaster pistol is a bit of a multi-tool. Like you can do an electric shot on it to open a doorway and you can find collectibles in there. There's an adrenaline meter attached to it. You see this like right in the beginning of landing on Toshara where you can just take out 3 enemies at once. You can use it while you're on your speeder and shoot over your shoulder and take someone out. Like you can do these cool things with your blaster. So you're not completely limited, but it feels like the game was built for combat, but then uses a lot of stealth gameplay. I'm curious if more options will open up down the line because when you're limited to just the blaster pistol and very, very minimal options beyond that in the terms of stealth gameplay and you don't have any other weapons to switch to, I could see it feeling a little limited, especially because, again, you can't just fail and shoot your way out of it. So once you fail, you get dropped back to the latest checkpoint. So it's a little old school in that regard, and I would say gameplay-wise, that was the thing that felt the worst to me. So right now, where I stand with this game, ahead of its release, is this. If you're a Star Wars fan and you want to just be in this universe for a while, I feel like this game is going to be up your alley. I also like the levels of exploration here, the levels of interaction, the things I can learn about the Star Wars universe. For example, just dropping in on Toshara. I know nothing about this planet. I like that it's not like, here we are stopping off at Tatooine, which is something that pissed a lot of people off with the IGN gameplay. Like, how many times have we seen this planet? Can we please see something new? So I like that the game opened up in unfamiliar territory. I also like that there was a sense of danger doing space combat. It was very arcadey, but after I took out all of the Imperial starships that were going after me, I was like, I don't know where to go next. And the idea that if I wasn't in the middle of a demo, that I could have really gone off the rails and just seen where I could go was really exciting because this was just one slice of an otherwise much bigger game. So for me, as someone who enjoyed what was there, I'm excited to see how this scales up. I definitely think Ubisoft has backed up what they've been talking about in the terms of more quality and quantity. None of the content felt overwhelming. I had like 3 objectives active at any given point, and that was totally manageable for me. It wasn't like I'm flying along and the 15-second rule kicks in and oh my god, there's another piece of content here, here, and here. You didn't really get that feeling with this game, which I think is a good feeling to have, especially in a Ubisoft game, which is known to do quite the opposite and distract you every step of the way, where eventually you don't really engage with the content, but kind of scoop it all up, then review it in your journal and go through it there. So yeah, I love the reputation meter. I'm hoping that ages well. This could be one of those takes where I see myself loving it early and I could see myself loving it later even more, or I could see myself being very disappointed with how it's executed. So we'll see how they execute some of these finer elements here that will kind of make or break this experience between just good, maybe okay, or really great Star Wars game from Ubisoft. So we'll see. But after playing this, I enjoyed it so much, I said, you know what? I'm going to be reviewing this. I'm going to be playing this for myself. I don't need to put another minute into this. I will wait for launch. I'm lucky enough to have already had this time with the game. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. What do you think of Star Wars Outlaws? Any concerns or things you're excited about with this game? Let me know down below. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.